Hi, my name is Mike Renner. I'm 34 years old and I'm originally from Flagstaff, Arizona. Right now, though, I live in Miami, a city that's as electric as it is ruthless. For the last 7 years, I poured my life into a tech firm called Brightwave Technologies. I started there as a junior software engineer, just another face in a sea of code and caffeine, but over time I clawed my way up. I wasn't the loudest guy in the room or the flashiest, but my work spoke louder than any sales pitch. I designed security frameworks that saved our biggest clients millions of dollars. My name started to circulate in executive meetings, though I was never invited into the room myself. I thought loyalty would eventually be rewarded. I thought wrong. It was a Monday morning, the kind of humid, heavy Miami morning where the air sticks to your skin. I was barely halfway through my first coffee when I got the message. Come to my office immediately. C. Whitmore. Caroline Whitmore, our chief technology officer, wasn't known for spontaneous chats. If she wanted you in her office, something serious was about to go down. My stomach tightened, but I told myself it was nothing. Maybe a promotion. I'd been pushing for lead systems architect for months now, and my last project had broken every internal efficiency record we had. I straightened my tie, smoothed down my blazer, and made the walk of hope down the sterile hallway lined with indifferent faces. Caroline's office was massive, with floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city. She sat behind a sleek black desk, her sharp navy suit pristine as ever, her silver blonde hair pulled into a severe knot. Her expression was unreadable, but the faint tapping of her pen against a folder gave her away. She was irritated. "Mike," she said, not offering a smile. "Take a seat." I obeyed, my mind racing through every project, every email, trying to find a misstep. I came up empty. "I'll be blunt," Caroline continued, sliding a piece of paper across the desk. "We've been informed that you had an interview with Stellar Dynamics last Thursday." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Stellar Dynamics. I'd taken a personal day for that interview, thinking I was careful. I hadn't even told my closest friends. How the hell did she know? I started, but she cut me off with a wave of her manicured hand. "Don't insult either of us by denying it," she said coolly. "After everything Brightwave has done for you, this is how you repay us? Disloyalty? Disloyalty." Like it was a 4-letter word, dripping with contempt. I gripped the arms of the chair to keep from shaking. 7 years of weekends lost to deadlines, 7 years of innovations and loyalty, 7 years of patiently accepting the standard 3% raises while others got promotions based on who they had beers with after work. And now I was a traitor because I dared to want better for myself. "Effective immediately," Caroline said, standing and pushing a cardboard box across the desk. "Your access is revoked. Security will escort you to collect your belongings." I opened my mouth to protest, but something in her icy eyes told me it would be pointless. I stood instead, buttoning my blazer with trembling hands. I refused to give her the satisfaction of a breakdown. "I appreciate the opportunities Brightwave has given me," I said, voice steady, "and I wish you continued success." A flicker of something, surprise maybe, passed over her face, but it was gone as quickly as it came. She nodded once, curtly, and turned back to her computer, as if dismissing a trivial inconvenience. The walk back to my desk felt like a death march. Coworkers glanced up, quickly looking away when they saw the box. Some whispered. Only one, Evan Reyes from DevOps, dared to give me a small nod of solidarity. I returned it with a small, tight smile. No scene. No drama, just dignity. Packing my few personal items, a photo of my brother and me at the Grand Canyon, my favorite mechanical keyboard, the ceramic mug from my first coding boot camp, I realized how small 7 years of my life looked in a cardboard box. As I stepped into the elevator, the security guard lingering awkwardly behind me, my phone buzzed. A message from Peter Langston, CTO of Stellar Dynamics. "Can you come in this afternoon to finalize details? 2 p.m. sharp." I smiled, a genuine one this time. Caroline thought she was punishing me. She had no idea she'd just handed me my next opportunity on a silver platter. The Miami sun was blinding as I stepped outside. I took a deep breath of the sticky air, feeling lighter than I had in years. As I loaded the box into the trunk of my car, I let the anger and humiliation wash over me, and then let it go. I wasn't going to carry Brightwave's toxicity into my future. The drive home was a blur. My mind kept flashing back to every late night I stayed to finish a project no one else wanted. Every time I watched a less capable coworker get a promotion because they laughed at the right jokes during happy hour. I had given my best years to a company that treated loyalty like a leash, something to pull tight when you tried to move forward. At home, I set the box down on my kitchen counter. My small, cluttered apartment suddenly felt vast and empty. I wasn't between jobs. I was unemployed. The reality settled on me like a heavy weight, but even as panic tried to creep in, excitement sparked under my skin. This wasn't an end. It was a beginning. My phone buzzed again. A call this time. I recognized the number immediately. Peter from Stellar Dynamics. "Mike, glad you picked up," he said, his voice upbeat. "Sorry again for the short notice, but we're eager to get moving. Are you still good for 2 p.m.? "I'll be there," I said, forcing calm into my voice even as adrenaline surged. "Great. And Mike?" Peter hesitated for a second. "We were already planning to reach out to you next week, even before you applied. You've built quite the reputation." I hung up, feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. Vindicated. Tomorrow would be the start of something new. But today it was time to finish this chapter. I spent the next hour preparing. Shower, clean shave, fresh suit. Not the cheap off-the-rack ones I used to wear, but the tailored navy one I bought last year, telling myself I'd wear it when I got promoted. That promotion never came, but today it finally had a purpose. As I tied my burgundy silk tie, I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. For the first time in a long while, I didn't see someone desperately chasing approval. I saw someone reclaiming his power. Stellar Dynamics headquarters was on Brickell Avenue, a shimmering glass tower that reflected the clouds above like a second sky. Walking into that lobby felt like crossing a threshold I wasn't sure I'd ever get to reach. Sleek furniture, live greenery walls, smiling receptionists who actually looked you in the eye. It was a world apart from Brightwave's aging cubicle farms and suspicious glances. Peter Langston met me in the lobby, a tall, wiry man with steel gray eyes and a handshake firm enough to crack bones. His grin was genuine, though, not the tight corporate smile I'd gotten used to. "Mike, good to finally meet in person," he said, leading me through the bustling open-concept office. Young engineers buzzed around, collaborating in sunlit lounges, whiteboards filled with colorful scrawls lining the walls. It was alive. It was everything Brightwave had stopped being years ago. We settled into a glass-walled conference room, and Peter slid a folder across to me. "I won't waste your time," he said, his tone brisk but respectful. "We're offering you the position of Senior Systems Architect, full autonomy over our next-gen security infrastructure project. We believe you're exactly what we need to get it done right." I opened the folder, skimming the terms. The salary made me blink, a full 65% increase over my last paycheck at Brightwave. The benefits package was nearly double. Bonuses, stock options, actual respect. "This is incredible," I managed. Peter chuckled. "It's called market value, Mike. Something your previous employer didn't seem to understand." I signed without hesitation. For the first time in my career, I wasn't being begged to accept scraps while pretending it was a feast. Peter leaned back, folding his hands behind his head. "I'll be honest with you," he said, his eyes narrowing slightly. "Brightwave's been on our radar for a while, and not in a good way." My eyebrows shot up. I hadn't expected that. "We've had ongoing partnerships with them for years," he continued. "But lately, delays, sloppy code, miscommunications. Except for your work, you kept them afloat longer than they deserved. It wasn't just about me finding a better opportunity. Brightwave was already circling the drain, and I'd been one of the last people keeping them afloat without even realizing it." Peter tapped the folder. "With you joining us, we're reconsidering our contracts. We'll be evaluating our options over the next few weeks." I nodded, keeping my face neutral, but inside something sharp and satisfying twisted. "Of course," I said smoothly. "Whatever decision you make, I'm ready to support the transition." Peter smiled approvingly. "Professional and smart. You're going to fit in just fine here, Mike." The meeting wrapped, and as I walked out of Stellar Dynamics Tower, offer letter tucked safely in my leather portfolio, I felt 10 feet tall. I hadn't just survived being fired. I had upgraded my life beyond what I even thought possible. Back at my apartment, I placed the signed offer letter gently on the kitchen counter next to the remnants of my old life still packed in the cardboard box. It felt symbolic somehow, closing one chapter with a bang, opening the next with clarity. My phone buzzed. A text from Brandon Knox, a guy I used to work with at Brightwave's security team. "Dude, heard you got canned. Total BS. Whitmore's been freaking out all afternoon. Management called an emergency meeting. I smirked. So the fallout had already begun. Brandon sent another message a minute later. Word is Stellar's dropping Brightwave if they lose your account. They're panicking. I leaned back in my chair, letting that sink in. Not by sabotage, not by petty revenge, just by proving my own worth and letting their own rot collapse from within. But the day wasn't done with surprises yet. Just as I set my phone down, it rang again. This time a number I didn't recognize. Mike Renner speaking, I answered. Mr. Renner, a woman's crisp voice replied. This is Evelyn Porter, chairwoman of Brightwave's board of directors. I understand you left the company this morning. I was hoping we could arrange a meeting at your earliest convenience. The board, not HR, not Whitmore's stooges, the board itself. I paused, choosing my next words carefully. I appreciate the offer, I said evenly, but I've already accepted a position elsewhere. A beat of silence. Then, I understand, Evelyn said. Nonetheless, I believe it's important we speak, if only for closure. Would you be available tomorrow morning? There was a cautious urgency in her voice that made me curious. Maybe it was worth hearing what they had to say, if only to walk out on my own terms. 9 a.m. works, I said. Excellent. We'll see you at the corporate offices. Thank you, Mr. Renner. She hung up before I could reply. I stared at my phone, then at the signed offer letter still gleaming on the counter. They wanted to talk, but nothing they could say would make me go back. Still, something told me this meeting was going to be more revealing than they intended. The morning came faster than I expected. I barely slept, tossing and turning, replaying every possible version of how that meeting could go. But when the sun finally rose over Miami's skyline, I felt ready, more than ready. I chose my outfit deliberately, a dark charcoal suit, crisp white shirt, no tie. Professional, but unbending. I wasn't a desperate employee crawling back for forgiveness. I was a man with options. Brightwave's main offices felt different walking in as an outsider. The front desk receptionist, Marcella, stiffened when she saw me, her usual cheery demeanor replaced by an awkward tension. Mr. Renner, she said, voice tight. They're expecting you upstairs. I nodded politely and signed in, noticing how the people moving through the lobby stole glances at me, like seeing a ghost. The elevator doors opened to the executive floor, floors I had never been invited to before, despite years of busting my back for this company. I stepped out into a corridor lined with glass walls, where serious-looking people whispered over laptops and papers. Evelyn Porter was waiting for me at the far end. Mid-60s, short silver hair, tailored black suit that radiated authority without being ostentatious. She extended her hand. Mr. Renner, thank you for coming on such short notice, she said, her handshake firm and businesslike. Of course, I replied evenly. She led me into a sleek conference room. The long table was polished to a mirror finish. Only the two of us were there. No Caroline, no HR, just the chairwoman and me. Please, sit, Evelyn said, motioning to a seat across from her. I lowered myself into the chair, maintaining calm. I'll be direct, she began, folding her hands neatly. Your departure has raised significant concerns among our clients, particularly Stellar Dynamics. We were unaware of certain internal management decisions that may have precipitated this situation. A dry corporate way of saying, we had no idea Whitmore was sabotaging our most critical employee. I said nothing, letting her continue. I have reviewed your personnel file extensively, she said. Flawless performance reviews, documented innovations, 3 formal requests for salary adjustment, all declined without appropriate justification. She paused, her gaze steady. Frankly, Mr. Renner, had the board been properly informed, this situation would never have escalated. I leaned back slightly, studying her. It was almost amusing, how easy it was for them to recognize my value now that their largest account was dangling by a thread. Ms. Porter, I said carefully, with respect, the decision was already made. I've moved forward. Her lips tightened, but she nodded as if she had expected this. We understand you've accepted another opportunity, she said. Nevertheless, we wish to offer you a reinstatement, effective immediately. Promotion to lead systems architect, salary adjustment to industry standards plus signing bonus. I raised an eyebrow. Funny how they suddenly found the budget. I appreciate the offer, I said. keeping my voice professional. But I've committed elsewhere. I don't believe reopening this conversation is appropriate. Evelyn Porter regarded me for a long moment, as if weighing whether to push harder. Finally, she sighed. "If I may ask one thing, Mr. Renner," she said, her voice softening just a touch. "What could we have done differently?" It was a good question, a rare one, and it deserved an honest answer. "You could have recognized my value," I said plainly, before I had to find it elsewhere. "Loyalty isn't one way. You can't ask people to sacrifice and then treat them as disposable." Evelyn nodded slowly, absorbing the weight of my words. "Thank you for your candor," she said, standing and extending her hand again. "Whatever you choose next, I wish you success." I shook her hand firmly. "I already have it," I said. As I walked out of Brightwave's headquarters for the final time, I didn't feel anger. I didn't even feel triumphant. I felt free. Finally, after years of waiting for someone to notice my worth, I had stopped asking. I had taken it back. But the day wasn't done yet. Later that afternoon, my phone buzzed with a message from Peter. "Quick update. Stellar Dynamics has concluded internal reviews. Decision announced tomorrow. We'll keep you posted." I didn't need him to spell it out. I knew which way the wind was blowing. The real revenge, the kind that didn't need shouting or scheming, was already on its way. Brightwave had underestimated me. They thought firing me would be the end of my story. They were wrong. That night I sat on my tiny balcony, sipping a cold beer, feeling the warm Miami breeze against my face. The city lights sparkled below like a field of stars. For the first time in years, I wasn't looking backward. I wasn't trapped by promises that never materialized. I had chosen myself. And soon, Brightwave was about to learn just how costly their mistake would be. The morning after the meeting with Evelyn Porter started like any other Thursday, but there was an unmistakable buzz in the air, a sense of something about to tip. I went through my new hire onboarding at Stellar Dynamics, meeting HR, getting my new badge, setting up my system credentials. Every person I met seemed genuinely excited I was joining the team. It was surreal, after years of feeling invisible. At exactly 10:13 a.m., my work email pinged. The subject line was simple: Stellar Dynamics vendor review results. My heart pounded in my chest as I opened it. The email was formal, almost sterile in tone, but the meaning couldn't have been clearer. Stellar Dynamics was ending all current contracts with Brightwave Technologies effective immediately. They would be transitioning their cybersecurity and infrastructure support to a new vendor, a rising competitor called Apex Shield Consulting. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. Apex Shield. I knew them. Bright, aggressive, young, everything Brightwave had once been, but lost somewhere along the way. Losing Stellar Dynamics wasn't just a hit to Brightwave's revenue, it was a public statement. A death sentence. Peter swung by my desk an hour later, casual as always. "You doing okay, Mike?" he asked, though there was a gleam in his eye that suggested he already knew the answer. "Yeah," I said, allowing a small smile. "More than okay." "Good. Because you're overseeing the transition," he added. "Apex Shield requested your involvement to make sure everything's clean." It was almost too perfect. I would be the one dismantling the systems I had spent years building at Brightwave. I would be the one they had to hand everything over to. My fingerprints were all over their architecture. I knew every vulnerability, every corner they had neglected. And yet, I wasn't interested in sabotage. I didn't need to twist the knife. Brightwave's own neglect, their own arrogance, had done the job better than I ever could. That afternoon, another text came in. This time from Evan Reyes, the DevOps guy who had nodded at me during my exit walk. "Brightwave's bleeding. Whitmore's losing it. Emergency board meeting tomorrow. Rumor is Evelyn's gunning for her head." I chuckled under my breath. Caroline Whitmore, Queen of Ice, finally facing the consequences of years of thinking she was untouchable. I wondered if she realized the irony. She fired me for being disloyal, yet her own disloyalty to the people who built her success was what would destroy her. The next few days were a blur. I threw myself into my new role at Stellar, helping oversee a smooth transition. Apex Shield was professional, efficient. Working with them was almost fun, a reminder of what tech work could be when you weren't constantly fighting against internal politics and outdated systems. Each time we encountered a missing piece of documentation, a rushed patch job, or a barely held together legacy system, I simply made notes and moved forward. I never badmouthed Brightwave to Apex Shield. I didn't have to. The evidence spoke for itself. By Friday evening, the Miami sunset blazing orange and pink across the sky, the entire transition plan was finalized. Stellar Dynamics had cut ties with Brightwave completely. Millions of dollars in annual revenue gone overnight. And then, just when I thought it was over, another unexpected twist arrived. I was home, making myself a steak dinner to celebrate the week's end, when my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. Mike Renner speaking. Mr. Renner, good evening, a deep male voice replied. This is Quentin Masters. I'm an executive recruiter for Gemini Innovations. We're currently assembling a team for a new cybersecurity division, and, well, your name came highly recommended. I blinked, setting down my spatula. I appreciate the call, I said, keeping my tone neutral. But I just started at Stellar Dynamics. Understandable, Quentin said smoothly. We're not asking for an immediate move. We're building something very different. Different enough that we're offering founding team incentives, equity, leadership from day one. Equity, ownership, not just another job, but a seat at the table. I asked for more details, my mind racing. Stellar had just saved me. But Gemini Innovations was offering me a throne. Think about it, Quentin said. No rush. We'll be in touch. When the call ended, I just stood there in my kitchen, staring out the window at the glittering city lights. Miami pulsed with opportunity, if you knew where to look. And for the first time in my career, everyone was looking at me. I didn't just survive getting fired. I had evolved. The weekend felt like a dream. I spent Saturday walking along the beach, feeling the coarse sand grind under my sneakers, letting the sun burn away the last bits of bitterness clinging to me. I didn't think about Brightwave. I didn't think about Stellar. I thought about myself, about what I wanted, about the kind of future I could finally build on my own terms. On Sunday, I met up with Evan and a few other former co-workers from Brightwave at a low-key bar in Little Havana. Word had spread fast after my exit, not just about my new job, but about the fallout Brightwave was suffering. Evan bought me a round of craft beers, clinking his glass against mine with a grin. You blew the place up without even lighting the match, he said, laughing. I didn't do anything, I replied with a shrug. They built their own bonfire. I just walked away before it burned down. There was a moment of silence, and then everyone laughed. It was a strange feeling. Camaraderie without competition. Respect without the undercurrent of fear that had poisoned every interaction at Brightwave. Later that night, scrolling through LinkedIn, I saw that Caroline Whitmore had quietly updated her profile. No announcement, no fanfare. She was no longer CTO at Brightwave, just former technology executive. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Brightwave itself wasn't faring much better. Industry forums buzzed with rumors. Lost contracts, frozen hiring, pending lawsuits. Stellar Dynamics' departure had been the crack that split the dam wide open. Clients who had tolerated subpar service for years finally had a reason to jump ship. By Monday morning, my second week at Stellar, I was fully integrated into my new team. The contrast was night and day. Here, my ideas weren't just tolerated, they were sought out. Here, people listened, because they valued what you knew, not because they had to. Peter Langston pulled me aside after our morning stand-up meeting. Mike, he said, we've been thinking. You've got leadership instincts. When we expand the security division later this year, I want you in the room helping us shape it. I nodded, the magnitude of it settling into my bones. They didn't see me as just another cog in the machine. They saw me as a future leader. And yet, I kept thinking about Quentin Masters' call, about Gemini Innovations, about the chance to not just build a department, but shape an entire organization from the ground up. Options. Real options. After years of being trapped in one place, it was intoxicating. That afternoon, as I was reviewing some system architecture drafts, an email popped into my personal inbox. Curious, I opened it and nearly dropped my phone. It was from Caroline Whitmore. Subject: an apology and a proposal. I stared at it for a long minute before opening it. Mike, I realize I'm probably the last person you want to hear from. I won't waste your time with excuses. I made a grave mistake in how I handled your departure. I let pride and fear cloud my judgment. I wanted you to know that losing you has had a profound impact, not just on Brightwave, but on me personally. I understand now that you were not just an employee. You were essential. I have recently accepted a position with another firm, a smaller, more agile startup. We are building something new, something better. I would like to offer you a place on our founding team. This is not Brightwave. This is a clean slate. If you're willing, I would be honored to discuss it with you. Regardless of your answer, I am truly sorry. Caroline Whitmore. I sat back stunned. Of all the outcomes I had imagined, Caroline reaching out like this, humbled, apologetic, even deferential, wasn't one of them. I read the email twice more, parsing every word, every gap. The universe was funny sometimes. It didn't just hand you revenge. Sometimes it handed you a choice. I could ignore her. I could gloat. I could say no and move on with my life. Or I could see what she was building, not out of loyalty to her, but because sometimes the best revenge wasn't leaving the past behind. Sometimes the best revenge was rising so far above it that they had no choice but to chase your shadow. I spent the entire night thinking about Caroline's email. I knew better than to trust it at face value. People like her didn't change overnight. But part of me, the part that still burned from years of being overlooked, was intrigued by the idea of being on the ground floor of something new, something better. Not for her, for me. The next morning I replied briefly, "We can meet. One conversation. No promises." We agreed to meet at a small coffee shop in Coral Gables, away from the glass towers and formal conference rooms. I arrived early, ordered a black coffee, and sat at a table by the window, watching the world move. Caroline arrived 10 minutes later, looking different, less polished, less armor. She wore jeans, a blazer over a simple white shirt, and her hair was down for the first time since I'd known her. She looked human. "Mike," she said, offering a hesitant smile. "Thank you for meeting me." I nodded, waiting. She sat down, folded her hands in front of her. "I'm not going to sugarcoat it," she said. "I burned bridges. I let ambition blind me. I thought control was the same as leadership. I was wrong." I watched her, searching for the cracks, the rehearsed lines. But if she was acting, she deserved an Oscar. "I'm building a company now," she said. "A real one. One where people matter. I want you to be part of it." I sipped my coffee, giving nothing away. "We have early investment," she continued. "A small but committed team. And we need someone who understands security at a fundamental level. Someone who can build trust from the ground up." "And you think that's me?" I said, voice even. "I know it is," she said, eyes meeting mine steadily. For a long time I said nothing. I thought about everything that had happened. About Brightwave. About Stellar Dynamics. About Gemini Innovations. And then I smiled. A slow, deliberate smile. "I appreciate the offer," I said, "and I'll think about it." Caroline's shoulders relaxed slightly, a hopeful gleam lighting her eyes. "But," I added, leaning in slightly, "you should know something." She blinked, wary. "I'm already talking to Gemini Innovations," I said, "and they offered me a